It was back in February where many of the drivers from across the iRacing service converged in some of the most classic IndyCar races that you've ever seen. Many different drivers have come and gone, but for Yakura, drivers have been fighting hard for one chance, for a championship. Tonight, 20 rounds of work cultivates now tonight. It's the final round of the 2020 season, and it all comes down to tonight. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to America's home for racing, for the Global Sim Racing Channel's coverage of the Ultimate Conquest Online Racing Association Throwback Indycar Series, presented by 94 Motorsports. Tonight, it's the final race of the 2020 season. It's the Molly Joe Photography Championship 200. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. As we get ready to crown a series champion, it's time to find out about tonight's venue. Let's take a look at your Gsrc track guide to learn more about the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Welcome everybody to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Even though it was built more than 4 decades ago, drivers still love to race at this 1.5-mile quad-shaped oval. Located just a short 13-mile drive from downtown, Charlotte also shares a similar track shape to what you would see at the Texas Motor Speedway and the Atlanta Motor Speedway as well. Despite turns 1 and 2 having the same banking as turns 3 and 4, the two ends of the speedway could not drive any different. Turn 1 and 2 are much more of a sweeping corner, really carrying the speed down into the corner and trying to get that hole shot out of turn 2 down the backstretch. Turns 3 and 4 drive much tighter than 1 and 2, really having to get the car to rotate in the middle of 3 and 4 to make your entry and your exit point. Getting a lap in around here in one piece usually requires some calm nerves and a patient foot. Charlotte was one of the first speedways to install lights around the facility, giving night racing a whole new berth. Charlotte is also known for its place in the perfect day of racing every Memorial Day, acting as the caboose after the Monaco Grand Prix and the Indianapolis 500. If Daytona is the pinnacle of NASCAR racing, then Charlotte has to be just a bumper behind. Fans flock to the largest sports facility in the Southeast and NASCAR's home track. This has been our guide to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Sit back and enjoy the show.
That was a look at your Gsrc track guide for Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now, DJ, let's talk about what to expect race-wise for tonight in terms of these cars, because we're at the legacy version of the Charlotte Motor Speedway, what's expected to be an interesting finale.
It certainly is, Justin, and you saw in that track guide, this 1.5-mile intermediate oval may look relatively standard to a lot of other tracks on the circuit, but it is anything but. It's pretty simple when you're running in clean air in these Indy cars. You can take it fairly flat, maybe just a hair of a lift as you go into the corner as the stint goes along. But you get a lot of these cars packed together. You've got to really be careful watching for that dirty air and that aero wash. And with these IRO 5s, you are going to see some pack racing. You're going to see 2, maybe even 3 wide if some people get really gutsy. So it's going to get really slicey and dicey here.
And a lot of that sliciness and diciness could be important tonight, because as we take a look towards your championship standings, a couple things to note. 1, qualifying is going to be the most pressure-filled of the entire season tonight, because the maximum amount of points you can get in qualifying is 30. That means that 69-point advantage Brian Beard has could grow depending on qualifying, or could shrink if Paul Jenkins can up how he has done in practice. We'll discuss that in a moment or so. That 69-point difference means it's between Beard and Jenkins for your 2020 championship. Andy Yerk has secured P3 in the title fight, with Nate Burke just about wrapped up over Robert Bluen for the top 4 position. Bluen currently just 10 points ahead, though, for P5, so there is a chance we see a swap for the final spot of the top 5 by the end of tonight. Let's take a look towards your race details, as this is going to be also crucial for the strategy to try and determine what's going to happen to try and make sure one of those 2 drivers wins the title.
Well, we are on the 20th and final race of this season. You've heard us talk about it, running the old school throwback Dallara IR05s that gives this series their name. It is 133 laps around the Charlotte Motor Speedway. The fuel stint's going to be about between 46 to 48 laps. That's going to be very, very key. These guys have only got 5 sets of tires total. That includes the ones they start on. So that's also going to come into play. We're working a night race. Temperature on the track's not going to be up, but you still want to have the freshest tires possible. And of course, as we've worked in every race this series, we have custom fixed setups. So they are a little different from what you drive if you just jumped onto the surface. They're tweaked a little bit to make things a little more competitive, but they are equal across the board.
Drivers meeting currently underway as these drivers get ready for what's expected to be an intense race. Let's take a look towards your track conditions as practice now wraps up. 82 degrees right now is the track temp. Most cloudy skies with 80 degrees now the air temp. The wind currently set fixed to 10 miles an hour to the north for tonight. That means there will be a bit of a headwind down the backstretch, but a big amount of wind coming down the front stretch for whatever comes from across those grandstands down the front straightaway. As well, these drivers going to have to deal with a high amount of humidity, 68% for tonight. I'd like to remind you as well that live time and in scoring is available at gsrc.tv to follow with your favorite teams and drivers for tonight's action. Once again, that's gsrc.tv. Those times on the practice charts, Rick Ray Vaughn at the top of the board at 24.6, Brian Beard second. He's coming back on the racetrack and trying to aim up his pit entries and exits for tonight. Sean Garrett, Andy Yerk, and Jeff Webb were the top 5. But the part of the reason I mentioned the practice importance is, you see that P13 Jenkins is? That is the magic number for Brian Beard to secure a championship 13th or better, and he's your champion, depending as well, however, on qualifying points, because that can shuffle that by 1 to 2 positions minimum.
It can, and rest assured, viewers, we are going to have our calculators out tonight, keeping an eye on everything that is possible as you watch Brian Beard working on that pit lane entry there. The series has dictated, as they have on most of these intermediate ovals that have the tricky entrances, you've got to enter the pit lane off of turn 3. So you have to take full advantage of that deacceleration lane to come around. What that means for the drivers is it is a little bit tricky to get slowed down when you are on a non-bank section of track, but they will have to indicate early, so we're not going to have drivers running into the back of each other with somebody trying to break down to come into the pits.
Less than a minute until qualifying, and keep in mind there is a bit of history here at this racetrack. And when it comes to this type of chassis, you think back to the Kart and Indy Racing League split. There were a few races held at this facility from 1997 to 1999-ish. There was also, keep in mind, discussions for USAC to have plans for a 500-kilometer event here at Charlotte when there was the initial potential splits back in the 1980s. However, the last race here did finish in tragedy after an incident killed spectators at the racetrack on lap 79 of that event. Huppy Wheeler, the president general manager at the time, had called the race at that moment. There has not been an IndyCar sanctioned event here since then. Buddy Lazier, Kenny Breck, the 2 winners who celebrated victories at this racetrack in the past. As we get ready for qualifying here, then, DJ, what are some of the expectations driving-wise? Because there is not a lot of sample size for this facility to expect what type of racing we may see tonight.
Well, truthfully, one of the things is that you want to look at the way these cars perform at other tracks of similar nature. So this quad oval configuration of Charlotte. You can drive a little bit of Texas to see what that's like. Texas banking's a little bit higher. It's a little bit lower here at Charlotte. Makes it a little easier to go around. But the best way to really get a sense of it is to just get out on the sim and practice. Yes, we haven't had a lot of Indy cars here. We did have Joseph Newgarden run the Roval that was built about a year ago. But you just kind of have to compare to what you know about driving ovals and apply it the best you can.
And keep in mind, the legacy version of this track technically is a bit more smoother, actually, than the current version of the Charlotte Motor Speedway. There's a lot of bumps from some of the abrasion for the tracks if you look at that side of the scan from when you say run the Roval or even the main oval. Qualifying is underway. And we talked a little bit about some of the qualifying points. Want to take a look towards that as well, because there is a championship fight presented by D2 Race Designs on that side of the bracket for tonight. D2 Race Designs, they specialize in creating personalized and customized sim racing peripherals, as well as providing the RC racing community items that make their days at the track more organized and efficient. Thanks to the season's top qualifier, they will be able to come away with a customized button box, all thanks to the kind folks at D2 Race Designs. Brian Beard just so happens to lead that point standing gap as well. He's led that much of the year by just 14 points, though, entering tonight over Paul Jenkins. Has a chance to win a button box if he gets a good qualified run tonight. The magic number, P15 for that side. Andy Yerk, Nate Burke, and Justin Kirby, the top 5 on that side. Most drivers are already finishing up qualifying. It's only 5 minutes, 2 solo qualifying laps tonight. It's Owen McLaughlin at the top of the board at 24.8 at the moment. Taking a look at Rick Ray Vaughn, however, he was one of your quickest drivers in practice, as mentioned.
And Ray Vaughn here working on his first lap. You see him working that high side, trying to keep that momentum up as much as possible. Tyler Gore diving down to the pits. Looks like Robert Bluen doing so as well. Justin Kirby now shooting up to the top of the list, as there is your second place title contender, Paul Jenkins, starting his fast lap. He's going to take it around and start to go down on the low side. Here comes Rick Ray Vaughn working the high side and across the line.
Ray Vaughn, 25.5. That is actually at the very bottom. He spent the first lap, however, building up speed. Meanwhile, Brian Beard at 24.8 needs to pick up another couple 100s if he wants to start on the pole. The main driver to keep an eye on is right here at 25 flat. Paul Jenkins has just not been able to find what he needs pace-wise, even with the draft, it seems, tonight. It's been like that much the practice. He spent more than 50-plus laps preparing for this evening.
Yeah, Jenkins just seems to lead a little bit off it, but as you see these guys working their way around the track here, there's Jenkins again trying to find something, anything, running that low line. He's going to cross the line with a 24.8. That is going to move him up. He is now P2 ahead of Brian Beard.
That's exactly what he needed, and Brian Beard actually gets out qualified for him. The magic number will still stay P13, and he'll still get the button box, but that does help Paul Jenkins a little bit to get unofficially a 68-point difference now. Taking a look at Brian Greenlee, one of the final drivers on track at the moment, a 25.3, however, puts him at the bottom of the board for now, with Andy Yerk, the only our driver, currently rolling onto the racetrack at the moment. Now, with about a minute or so to discuss things, the track position we've talked about can be very crucial. We've seen that at tracks like Chicagoland, but for tracks like Charlotte, what's kind of the thought process with that for that positioning here tonight?
I mean, Justin, you want to be out front. At a place like Charlotte, if somebody spins in front of you, you've got nowhere to go. So the farther up towards the pointy end of the field you can be, the safer you're going to be. It almost has less to do with actual speed and winning the race as it does with accident avoidance.
Absolutely. As well, if you are driving around your championship drivers, what are some of the thoughts to that on how you try and play that out then, DJ?
Well, for me, if you're in the car, you want to win every time, but you do have to be aware of everything that is going on around you. You've got to be able to know where these guys are, and you don't want to make a mistake around them. So you may be a little bit more cautious. You probably won't send in a dive bomb if you're running next to Brian Beard.
Finishing up qualifying as these drivers all were fighting for one thing tonight, that being on top of the button box. And for positioning, your pole award, once again, presented by iRacers Lounge. For tonight, it is Justin Kirby who will get the chance to celebrate that pole award after setting a 24.845 in qualifying tonight. Drivers getting all set to go to line up for tonight's action. Let's take a look at your full rundown for the starting grid as 19 drivers have wheeled their machines to the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway for tonight to try and fight for a championship. Kirby will start on the pole as just mentioned. Jenkins will start in second, a much needed qualifying performance and track position for tonight. 4/1000th of a second picked up on Brian Beard in qualifying. McLaughlin will start in fourth with Chris Stouffer in P5. Christopher Maturcian starting in P6. He'll be looking to try and jump up to the top 5 in points. He'll start in front of Robert Bluen and Rick Ray Vaughn. Sean Garrett will start in 9th position with Nate Burke rounding out your top 10.
Bringing home the car in 11th to start off is going to be Jeff Wupker, followed by Brian Greenlee in 12th. Cody Bullock in 13th, followed by David K. Hall. Tyler Gore going to be starting off in 15th, followed by Simon Grills. Andy Yerk is the last driver to put in a time, with Mike Ellis and Takashi Kita not putting in a time during qualifying and starting off in 18th and 19th, respectively.
That's a look at your drivers for tonight. Ellis and Kita did not qualify, as just mentioned. Let's take a look at your focus drivers for tonight, or specifically the drivers with the spotlight on them. It just so happens to be your championship fight. Brian Beard and Paul Jenkins will be the drivers we'll be keeping an eye on all night long. For your spotlighted drivers, brought to you by Midwest Simulations. You'll watch the track, we'll watch the rest. Use the promo code THROWBACK for $5 off a set of their Spotlight's visual spotting system. Find out more at MidwestSim.com. Once again, I'd like to give a shout out as well to your title sponsor for tonight's action, Ollie Joe Photography. A lot of great work put in by that group, of course. Played to the organizer for the series, Scott Bolster, in fact, the wife of the main admin and organizer of this series. I'd like to thank them for their support of Yakura action. Getting ready to get going racing. DJ, your keys to victory tonight.
Stay out of trouble, stay out of people's way, and keep an eye on Paul Jenkins and Brian Beard, Justin. That's where the fun's going to be tonight.
Time to get your popcorn out, everybody. The championship comes down to one final round. Would be Paul Jenkins, who led much of the season before, seen a 200-point advantage dissipate, or will be Brian Beard, one of the top winningest drivers all season. We're about to find out. Pace car is off, green flag is out. We're underway from Charlotte, and we're already making near contact as everyone strains it back out.
I don't know if that was a little bit of wheel spin there for Paul Jenkins, or if he just wanted to get his elbows out early and tell Brian Beard that he was fighting for this win, but barely avoiding anything there. It looks like everybody's able to get Scott through as they head down now into turns 3 and 4, fanning out into that 2-wide pack racing that we talked about.
0.7 of a second gap already built up by Justin Kirby. He'll lead the first lap. Paul Jenkins holds on to second with Beard, along with Ray Vaughn already lined up. For Ray Vaughn, he gained 4 spots in 1 lap in part from that check.
That was a really heads-up play there from Ray Vaughn. As you see Chris Stouffer thinking about making a move down the inside of Ray Vaughn. He's not. They're going to duck back into line. Beard now shifting back to the outside here of Rick Ray Vaughn, trying to use the momentum to get around Paul Jenkins, but that's not going to work for him. That's going to move Ray Vaughn up to third, Beard back to fourth, and now Stouffer going to be on the inside of Beard and maybe push him back further.
Yeah, Beard needs to find a way to the bottom side. It is a fairly bottom-dominant track in most cases here. Key point, Paul Jenkins just lost the bottom of the racetrack and lost P2 to Rick Ray Vaughn. And this is going to be something we may see along the short run, especially is if you get a run, expect someone to take it underneath.
Very much so. You've got to be very defensive of that low line. As we start to get a little farther into the race, you may see the top line start to develop. I also think there may be a bit of strategy involved with running the top line early. It saves a little bit of tires, specifically that right rear tire. You're not going to get as much wear if you run the top line. So we may see Brian Beard be able to fight back a little bit into that 46 to 48 lap fuel stint that we talked about in the race highlights.
Brian Beard back to the bottom, by the way, was able to outpower Owen McLaughlin there. As some of the other drivers trying to get the top line to start working, and all of a sudden, just like the split, they're developing that way. Right before one of the Hutch Sport drivers started pushing up. Of note for that organization, they brought in a couple new drivers for their debuts tonight. Bullock and Grills, Cody Bullock and Simon Grills specifically, make their series debuts tonight. Bullock is currently 15th position, Grills in 19th. The highest running driver for that organization is Sean Garrett, who is right now slowly trying to reel in this league pack of 4 drivers.
And despite getting that really good jump there from Justin Kirby, Rick Ray Vaughn is now starting to fight for the lead. He's going to take to that outside line. Woo! Kirby taking a very, very aggressive middle line there, trying to push Ray Vaughn up the track a little bit. Ray Vaughn having absolutely none of it, getting better momentum off the corner. Justin, this may be the first time we've seen that top line really working out for a driver tonight.
We've seen it work a little bit for Brian Beard. Now Justin Kirby, though, a little bit loose on the bottom side. Led lap that time goes to Rick Ray Vaughan. Chris Stouffer trying to find his way towards the line. Oh, well, Paul Jenkins tries to continue to fight his way through the grid. He needs these positions, mind you. He needs some bad luck as well for Brian Beard. The downside is Beard is coming a 10th of a second a lap.
He's coming up hard and he's coming up fast. He's towing behind him Owen McLaughlin. You can see him there, but this battle for top spot is just continuing on between Kirby and Ray Vaughan. Neither one of them giving any sort of quarter, just fighting their way out there, getting really close on the exit of 2. Ray Vaughan taking that wider line off the outside. That gives him more momentum down the back straight. He's just barely got, I thought he was going to have enough to shut the door on Kirby, but Kirby able to fight back.
Kirby almost looked like he was trying to hold on a bit to a later arc of sorts. But Rick Ray Vaughan able to get the better run on the top. He's now single file for the race lead and nearly shoves off the front wing of Kirby. They do have a fast repair available, but you don't want to use it fighting for the race lead on lap 10.
No, you don't, but Rick Ray Vaughan clearly saying, I don't care about the championship, I just want this win. But he's going to get a little bit of a higher takeoff there in turn 4. That's going to give Kirby a little bit of an advantage. Kirby now coming to the outside, seeing what he can make happen. He's going to go for a little bit of an over-under here. Oh, and there's a little bit of contact. Kirby getting into the left rear tire of Ray Vaughan.
A little bit argy-barginess right now for the race lead. Of note, Sean Garrett losing several positions down the back straightaway. He's been shuffled to 16th position from 7th spot. Had a problem in the middle of the pack. There were 2 wide in that group as well. Everyone getting aggressive as now Chris Stouffer, Paul Jenkins, and several others now using the top to the middle line by corner exit.
Yeah, that's going to start happening as those tires wear off a little bit more. And, Justin, you mentioned that headwind coming down the backstretch. That's really coming into play as you're seeing that is the prime area to get a good run on the car in front of you. That headwind just causing more downforce to press down, and it's really, really giving a better draft for the cars behind.
Of note, Sean Garrett had stuffed the wall a touch with his right side. Tires came down for 20 seconds in this lane. He is now back on racetrack 19. But the battle for the race lead's not over. The pack is still stretched back to 2.4 seconds from 1st to 15th, and Kirby still trying to use the top of the wall just about to build up momentum. Jenkins is underneath, however. Kirby pushes up. Jenkins forced to check up. Here comes Stouffer.
I think Stouffer's going to maybe be able to get this move done. He's got a lot of momentum heading down the backstretch, and importantly behind him, Brian Beard getting shuffled back a little bit, but we're going to stay on this lead in front there. You can see Beard in the background in the corner as Jenkins now forced down to the inside. He's going to run side by side with Chris Stouffer. Stouffer going on that high line. Looks like that's Jenkins not really able to get the car down to that white line to get the preferred line, and that's going to give Stouffer a mega advantage down the backstretch.
As a matter of fact, he's got a mega advantage out of turn 4. Here comes the win, and there goes the pass. Stouffer up to 3rd, battle for the race lead, side by side again just about, as Kirby goes for the crossover in front of these guys. Big dive to the bottom by Kirby, doesn't stick, however. Here comes Stouffer. Better run down the back. He'll make a move on the Black Magic Motorsports machine and rip away 2nd.
Great heads-up play there from Chris Stouffer, but he's going to drift up a little bit up the track. That's going to give Justin Kirby just an inkling of a way to get by him. As you've seen here in these first 17 laps, you can run that low line for about 10 laps up to speed, but after that, your tires just start to go, and you've got to revert to running that high line.
But Justin Kirby's been trying to stick. He's been losing time, though, on the entry on that line. He's been better, though, in turn 4 exit. Like many drivers tonight, Jenkins now thinking about a move, doesn't take it. And they're starting to lift and coast of note a little bit at the end of these straightaways to try and save a little bit of gas.
If you can eke out just one more lap of fuel, it can help you exponentially in the pits, Justin. If you're able to catch the yellow correctly, stay on the lead lap when somebody else goes in. If you got a pit under green, it will cost you a lap, maybe even 2 around this 1.5 mile speedway.
They're lifting right around the end of the dash marks for reference sake, but there's a new friend up front. That's Nate Burke, who's trying to wheel it up to the top. He's one of the fastest cars in the track. McLaughlin had the fastest lap overall last time. He's in P6. So it's starting to compress Everyone on back, though, is starting to drop back by up to 4 to 5 tenths.
Yeah, and Burke's really just been making slow and steady progress up through the field. He, of course, started back in 10th place, now up to 5th. Really now trying to make that high line work on Paul Jenkins. Jenkins able to make the middle line work, but here comes Burke with maybe thinking about a crossover. No, he's just going to stay in the draft, stick up on that high side, stay right behind Jenkins, get about a half a wing in that clean air.
Contact for the lead. Rayvon and Kirby make contact. Kirby went for the cross down the back stretch. Made contact with his right rear tire right against Rayvon's car. Rayvon shuffled out to 5th. Chris Stouffer to the race lead. Here comes Paul Jenkins now for 2nd as Kirby holds him off.
And it looks like there's not any permanent lasting damage there for Kirby or Rayvon. Both of them able to continue on. Rayvon actually making a great run there through 1 and 2. Able to now get through 3 and 4. Has the move on Jenkins. Shuts the door on him hard.
Wrecker Rayvon, the 2-time race winner, shutting the door very, very hard, in fact. Nearly across the front wing as Stouffer losing momentum off the corner. Chris Stouffer, he's competed for several different victories this season, looking for a bit of luck to end off this campaign. Still early on, as Kirby, trying to keep that top line, just keeps it up there, nearly bobbles it.
As you see, these cars are getting more and more slippery off the exits of the corner. They're really having trouble keeping it down. Rayvon thinking about maybe doing something there, looking at a 3-wide position. As you see, there goes Kirby going high. Rayvon to the middle. Maybe something's going to happen. It looks like Kirby's going to have the advantage coming through the corner. Let's see what Chris Stouffer can say about it on that low line. Rayvon coming up the back, though.
Do we mention it's 110 laps to go this time by? The racing like it's the last lap here at Charlotte, halfway through the first fuel stint of the race. Kirby that time by got the lead lap. The pack now is 6 cars full with Brian Greenlee trying to make it 7. Brian Beard, we are hearing, has a bit of damage. However, he is back in P9, DJ, and that may be a problem for the championship points leader.
That's exactly the kind of thing that Paul Jenkins wants to hear. Now he's just got to keep his foot in it and keep up in the front. He's running about 5th place right now, although these positions are changing lap by lap. As you see, Rayvon getting a great run on Justin Kirby. Going to think about the inside, and he's going to go for it as they dive into 3.
Rayvon, right there. There's the give and take after the contact. That was to be expected after the tire-to-tire contact into turn 3 before. Everyone else, though, starting to line up single file. No one wants to give up that top line at either end of the racetrack, obviously. But the thing is, with that wind, if it was the opposite direction, we'd be seeing massive runs off turn 2 and probably a bit of struggle in turn 4. That's just a lot of that effect of that headwind.
Exactly. You'd be amazed what even just 1 or 2 miles an hour wind can do to these high downforce cars as they go here. Looking out the back of Rick Rayvon's car, you can see him just sticking on that middle line, really making it work. Behind him, Justin Kirby getting a good run of that draft, trying to figure out what he can do to get by Rayvon. He's going to get, so close to his gearbox. I thought they were going to touch, but Kirby able to just hold it off the line.
Something's got to give. Now, 106 to go still. Kirby and Rayvon, two of the quickest drivers all night. Nate Burke is also about to join them after a bit of their breakup. To P3 goes Burke in the backdrop. Paul Jenkins not able to get the run yet for P4. Kirby, though, he's been trying this diamond line, DJ, it seems, for a little while. It seems to work, though, at times down the straights. Here comes the dive into turn 1. Will it work this time? No. Can't get the run into the corner.
Justin, I think that line could have worked about 10 laps ago, but right now just the speed you see off the back as you see Rick Rayvon there weaving a little bit, trying to break the draft of Justin Kirby, and it kind of did work. He's able to extend about a probably 5-car length lead, but now Nate Burke and Chris Stouffer breathing down the neck of each other and Justin Kirby as they try to get anything happening.
We're seeing some of the biggest fall off of the season too, DJ, for a 1.5 mile circuit. Already 0.4 of a second of fall off in this pack since the start of the race. We started in the 7s. These drivers are running in the 25 1s to 3s at the moment.
Yeah, mega loss of grip, mainly from that right rear tire. And something to keep in mind, Justin, Brian Beard is in 13th place right now.
And that's because, as mentioned, he's got right front wing damage, DJ, and that is so critical. He has a faster period if he needs to use it to save time in the pits. However, and this is the difficult part, He's already nearly 3 seconds behind the pack.
He's got to be praying for a caution, because even if he does have that minor bit of wing damage, he does not want to come in here. We said you can go a lap or even 2 laps down, and that could be absolutely fatal for his championship hopes tonight. So he's just got to hang on tooth and nail until we get a yellow flag, or until everybody's got to come in for green flag stops.
Lead's starting to settle down a little bit, by the way. Top 5 now lined astern in the draft pack. The pack back to P10 is within 2 seconds. Take a look at Stouffer and Jenkins, by the way, and give a shout out to Stouffer. He's had some bad luck in recent months, DJ, yes, but there's a reason he's been tied for the amount of race victories in 4 apiece, with Brian Beard entering tonight.
He is, without question, one of the stars of this series. Just as you said, caught a little bit of bad luck, very similar to, frankly, how Justin Kirby's been running. But you see him here going to the inside of Nate Burke. He's going to have the move down the start of that corner. Burke's going to fight back with a little bit of momentum. But that's really the first time in a couple of laps we've seen anybody being able to make that lower line work, even for just a little bit. Although Burke able to get the momentum, and here comes Jenkins now on the outside of Stouffer.
Now he starts his hard charge. Keep in mind, we mentioned that magic number. Guess what? Paul Jenkins likely will have to win this race to win the championship. And guess what? That is something he has not done all season, despite being the most consistent driver all campaign.
Mr. Consistent, Paul Jenkins, but never on the top step of the podium. But he looks like he's got a pretty decent car to make a shot at it here tonight. You see him bobbing and weaving there a little bit on Nate Burke, trying to figure out what the best line's going to be.
Christopher was your winner at the Windy City 200 last round at Chicagoland. Had also gotten victories at tracks such as Pocono, a good selection of races. He found his way to victory lane, able to hold on for that spot. Keep in mind, your biggest movers are within this grouping as well. +9, Andy Gsrc is right behind them as well in this drafting train, as we're already about 10 laps away from pit stops.
We are, and as the leaders pull out a little bit, the rest of the field starting to come into play a little bit here. But as you ride on board, you can just see and hear the lifting these guys are doing, trying to save a little bit of fuel.
Of note, Cody Bullock has pit from the main pack. He was back in the rear half of the field. 2 of the Hutch Sport drivers have struggled all evening of note tonight, as Gsrc able to hold on to the top line. That's Christopher Matrician on the bottom side. There's the pit stop, by the way, for the Hutch Sport machine. All their drivers for their team, by the way, unfortunately, if you're a fan of them, 17th, 18th, 19th.
Yeah, so Hutch Sport not having the best night. That's an early stop there from Bullock. Don't know if that is damage induced or if he's just trying to go off strategy to hope something happens. Could work out as the race goes along, but we'll have to see.
Tower Gore also now in the pit lane. The leaders are pitting. This is much earlier than projected, DJ. Lap 39. They are coming in.
They are indeed. That's going to be, I think, Justin Kirby, the first one to dive in. They have plenty of fuel left in the car, but they are worried about the tires. And so that is what Kirby's banking on. And who's that behind him? Oh, yes, that's Brian Beard coming in as well. Going to get some repairs on that wing and hopefully make his way back up the field.
McLaughlin going to pit this time by Rick Ray Vaughn, not making a single signal yet. Again, up to 48 laps was the projection entering tonight. However, when you do the math as well in your head on top of things, that leaves about, say, a 35-lap run towards the end, looking like some drivers may be saying, you know what, I want to split it up, say, maybe 40-40, and more so towards 40 at the end.
It certainly does. The danger zone that does apply now is if a yellow comes out before these leaders pit, they will be able to stay on the lead lap, and everybody that else has gone in, they are a lap down, and now that they are getting back up to speed, but that is the concern for these guys who have come into the pits.
And as well, needing the draft, Justin Kirby jumped 5 seconds on Brian Beard overall. McLaughlin just came out of the pit lane right behind all those drivers. Everyone else stays in the pack, and there's a thing to note. Drivers who didn't have the draft on fresh tires after, say, if you take the example of Simon Grills, who started from the pit lane, were 0.2 seconds slower per lap than the drivers who had the slipstream.
They were, you know, slipstreaming, drafting, being king here for open wheel cars. You can see that pack, Mistricion there in the back, starting to fan out, but Rayvon just continuing to lead this pack around. Rayvon, Burke, Jenkins, Stouffer, and Greenlee, your top 5.
Expecting much of the field to come in these next few laps or so, as they'll pass by one more driver in Gore off the pit lane. Gore, 1 minute and 44 seconds of the lane. Nate Burke currently scored second. Rayvon in first. Jenkins, Stouffer, Greenlee, your top 5. Yerk is in 6th. Matricion, Hall, Wupker, and Bluen are all among the drivers looking to stretch to the end of the fuel run. Here's the difficult part, though, if you're, say, Andy Yerk and Christopher Matricion. Sean Garrett's been having problems all night. He's come down the pit lane already twice tonight. Once for damage repair. He is fighting some of your drivers at the moment, trying to get around them, and they're saying, you know what, let's get out of here and pit.
That's a smart move by Andy Yerk. You don't want to mess with lap traffic like that. Better to just dive into the pits and get out of the way. And that way you see him coming down. As we talked about, that entrance off of turn 4, as we jump back up to the front here, that is Rick Rayvon. Nate Burke able to close down a little bit, only about 1.5 car lengths in between them. Oh, no, I lied here. Oh, no, Rayvon faking for the pits a little bit, but that is Christopher Matricion in the background, going to be the next taker for pit lane.
Wupker was also thinking about calling in there over the radio. Did not come down, however. The fresher tires, the difference 2/10 right now. Chris Stouffer, David Hall will join the drivers of the pit lane this time by. Still waiting to see who else will join them, as Burke indeed will join those cars, and Rayvon a late dive.
It's a late dive from Rayvon, but I think these guys are looking at those 2/10 you mentioned, Justin, and recognizing that they have got to get down now.
And that's in open space. That's the main difference. A lot of these drivers, though, will have the advantage of being in the pack. They ditched Paul Jenkins, Brian Greenlee, however, who will come down this time. Takashi Kita expected this time as well to end the first pit window already in this race.
And you called it right. Jenkins, Greenlee, and Kita all coming down. You see the guys here taking their pit service. We're going to see who can jump off the line. It looks like Burke is the first out. I don't know if he's going to get the advantage over Rayvon. It's going to be neck and neck. Rayvon's barely going to have it across the line.
Here's the thing, though. Justin Kirby has jumped them by at least a couple seconds. He just passed by on the racetrack. They'll also be cycling with Brian Beard. However, once again, Kirby is running 24.9s without draft help. They were running 24 or 7s, as low as 6s in some cases, mind you, as the track cooled off in practice and in the main pack to start off this race. In other words, there's a chance a lot of these drivers reel them on in. It's only about a few seconds back, by at least 3-4 seconds, give or take.
It is, but you can see just how quick they are, as that is Rick Rayvon, Brian Beard, and Nate Burke flying by Paul Jenkins. As you mentioned, he's going to be able to reel back in a little bit here. He's not going to be completely out of the draft, but this is a little bit of a taller order for Jenkins, as that later pit stop was able to cost him a little bit.
Yes, indeed, as he's picked up Christopher, by the way, who's trying to pass him on the outside. Pit lane violation we are hearing given to Mike Ellis. Drivers were told that they had to pit on the entry through turn 3 and 4, as well as stay to the right side of the pit lane. That's a drive-through penalty now for him. Mike Ellis, currently scored in 15th position, will have to serve the penalty.
That's getting a bad day going to worse there. As you see, that is Jenkins, Stouffer, and David Hall in that bright red car trying to make a look down the inside. They are a good amount back from the leaders in front, though, so they've got about 2 seconds to make up. You can see that gap there. That's going to be just on the hair outside of drafting range, so that's going to be very difficult for Jenkins to try to get back. But crucially, after pit stops and repairs, Brian Beard back up into 4th.
So what can they do to try and get to, say, the next group? Because I think they'll need all of them, honestly, DJ, to get to Justin Kirby at this rate.
I think they will, too. Kirby's got about a 5-second lead over Rick Rayvon, as you can see there on your Gsrc tower. What they can do, Justin, is they can play a little bit of leapfrog. Let somebody go, get a draft ahead, for a couple of laps, just pull each other along. It's very hard to pull off. It's tricky to do, but if it's done right, that's really the only way you're going to be able to pull up close.
The counterpoint is, though, there's already been drivers discussing, such as Brian Beard, can we stay in a line at the moment? And that's what they're doing instead of shuffling, at least at the moment. What's kind of the counter argument with that is now they've signaled, let's shuffle it out a little bit to see what it can do.
I think they're just throwing everything at the wall at this point, Justin, seeing if anything whatsoever can stick to get them up to try to reel in Kirby whatsoever. As you see there, that's Burke leading Ray Vaughn and Beard behind. All of them just trying to pull each other up in whatever way they can.
And it's an 8-lap undercut. Justin Kirby pulled in this race. Fastest car on the track is Jeff Wubker, who is in the second pack, which features 4 cars. Speaking of that second pack, it is now a little bit faster than these 3 by only about half a tenth to a tenth a lap. There is a chance they get up to them. But the problem is everyone's plateaued with Justin Kirby's pace. Here's the look for the battle for 5th in their train.
Ooh, as you can see, Chris Stouffer trying to get a little bit eager there on Paul Jenkins, trying to find something or anything. And yeah, you're really going to be able to run some super quick laps on those first few laps off of your pit stop. But after that, the tires will start to go away. We saw how the pack fanned out a little bit as the race went along. You can't get as far down on the track as you'd like to. But these guys, it's a little bit more difficult.
Here's something these drivers didn't want to see. Justin Kirby has found some drafting help. A few drivers who have struggled in this race are up in front of him. Mike Ellis, who served the drive-through penalty, Tyler Gore, with a 1 minute and 44-second pit stop, are right in front of him. Guess what then? Kirby now is not on his own. He's now got a drafting partner. That means this 5-second cushion can be also much more difficult to claw on for everyone else. You see a little bit of those drivers up the track a touch.
We'll have to see what he can do with it, Justin. You know, I think it could help him, obviously, down the straights. But then again, considering how long ago he stopped, I mean, we're talking about 20 laps on these set of tires. That's about the point that we saw lap times really start to fall off. And at that point, you're dealing with mega aero wash, and it may actually end up slowing him down ever so slightly, even with the help of the draft.
And on all those times, 24.884. Last time by for Justin Kirby. This pack on screen in the same ballpark within a few 1,000ths of a second. The second pack right now is running 24.9s now. Still 24.8s at the moment as Rick Ray Vaughn and Nate Burke will swap spots up in front. You see right there. If anything, they've not even gained time still in all this, as talked about. There's also a little pack as well with Brian Greenlee, Kita, and York at the moment. McLaughlin, and Bullock are working together in 12th and 13th. Patrician and Bluen are working together in 14th, 15th. So everyone's gone into these little groupings so far. It's been one of the cleanest races of the season, to be frank.
I agree with you, Justin. I'm a little surprised we haven't seen a yellow waved yet, but let's not jinx it as the action on track is spectacular. You see here Nate Burke trying to work his way this way and that around Rick Ray Vaughn. Burke really just moving that car left, right, and center, trying to find absolutely anything to get by Ray Vaughn, but Ray Vaughn placing it perfectly through the corner, taking that almost exact middle line to just stop any sort of momentum from Burke.
They are reeling in Simon Grills to add an air car potentially to this grouping depending on pace as Nate Burke makes the swap on the bottom. Will Ray Vaughn give him the space? Almost didn't, and no, he doesn't. And Rick Ray Vaughn is not giving this up quite so easily now. Finally, looking like he may lift. He is not allowing them to let them swap now. That's lost them 2/10.
It's not. I understand the inkling from Ray Vaughn. You're in front. You want to stay in front. But, Rick, you can't be driving like that if you're going to win a race here. You've got to play together with these guys to get moving forward, as now you see Brian Beard starting to make a move on Nate Burke, moving that silver car around the outside, trying to get something happening. Maybe he can be the one to leapfrog ahead of Rick Ray Vaughn and start to claw in on Justin Kirby.
This is exactly what Justin Kirby wanted to see, too, and wanted to hear probably from his spotter stand is all of that happening. By the way, he's passing the lap cars, too, up in front of these guys.
He is, and you can see it on screen there, Justin. What this fighting is able to do is it's allowing Paul Jenkins to close up behind all of them. He's only now about 10 car lengths, or maybe about 15 car lengths behind them. They're starting to claw in. All this fighting with Ray Vaughn not doing any favors.
As a matter of fact, the pack is now technically closed. The red box is exactly 1 second between Burke and Jenkins. Those boxes now about to merge. And all that scrapping, they've equalized the time, in part because Kirby jumped to the head of his lap car group. But now, they need to start thinking straight here, because if they end up fighting like that again, they may say, essentially, goodbye to Justin Kirby the rest of this race.
They could, as we see here, a lap comparison going to pop up on your screen quite shortly between Kirby and Ray Vaughn. There you can see it, Kirby, just, it's an ebb and a flow there. Those 62, laps 62, 63, that's where they were fighting. That's where Kirby was able to pull out and get it back a little bit more.
Starting to claw back time, however, now, because Kirby is now the front car in this group for 1 and 2. The tires are starting to fade back in, and this is now where this could get interesting. The thing is, though, remember, Justin Kirby is committed to this undercut strategy. He might gain another, say, 5 seconds like he did before if this keeps going green at this rate on his next pit stop.
That's a big if, Justin. Once again, I can't believe we've made it 68 laps without a yellow flag here, especially with all the tire wear that we've seen. I gotta think you're gonna see some guys really starting to slip up the track a little bit more. The biggest thing that can catch Kirby out right now is a yellow. If he catches it wrong, that can spell disaster for him. But as there you see Ray Vaughn starting to eke into that gap as Kirby's tires start to go away, just slowly and steadily, almost a tenth a lap.
That's going to need to be very consistent, however, to close that full gap. If they keep up even a tenth a lap, here's the thing. They're only going to get within around maybe 3 seconds or so on the timing screens. That's not going to be enough when you add things up. As we take a look now, by the way, Brian Beard has dropped back from these cars.
He has, as Nate Burke's pursuit of Rick Ray Vaughn taking on new fervor here. Burke once again flying this way and back, trying to find something, anything around Ray Vaughn. Ray Vaughn once again showing some big elbows, driving that car right through the middle of the corner. Burke's going to have a little bit of momentum, but he's going to check himself up there, thinking about which way to go. He's not going to push the advantage. He's just waiting for an opportunity, it looks like.
Yeah, just looking like a little bit impatient, even with the time gain. They are also having to deal with lap traffic again in Simon Grills, as we talked about. Hutch Sport bringing 2 Indiana iRacing Club drivers to this field tonight to gain some experience in open wheel racing. By the way, with the grouping with Beard, he's now dropped back to Jenkins and Stouffer. David Hall and Jeff Wubker have also dropped back from the 17 and the 7 on the racetrack.
And in terms of looking at our championship, you know, you said Brian Beard's just got to stay above 13th, and Paul Jenkins knows that, but he still wants to get around his title rival. As you see, that lap car really causing problems for Rick Ray Vaughn, trying to find it this way and that, that's going to force him way down to the inside. I think he may have gotten up into the wall a little bit there. That's going to allow both Ray Vaughn and Burke by, as now that lap car becoming a little bit of a headache for Brian Beard, as Paul Jenkins now right up Beard's gearbox.
Lost him a little bit of time, possibly. You see 4.5 seconds still to go. You see that grouping, though, we mentioned has to deal with them next, and Brian Beard's been reeled in by Jenkins and company. Paul Jenkins, the fastest car on track last time by a 24.8, as the lap car Simon Grills will not likely be making this quite as easily as we've seen. He is trying to stick to his own line from what we can tell.
No, he's sticking to his own line, and, you know, he doesn't immediately have to get out of the way on this first lap here. He is he is able to do this, so he's not running dirty or anything. He's doing exactly what he needs to do, and it really, the impetus is on Beard and Jenkins and these guys to get around him.
Exactly. It's the job of the lead lap cars to pass the lap car. A lot of cases you'll get leeway, yes, but in other cases, you'll have drivers who say, you know what? I'm running this line because if I run an error line, I might say snap it loose or might have a problem. It's almost looking like Grills is towards that latter category. Mind you, Grills, iRacer on the service since early March here in 2020.
He is. He's young. He is certainly green, but he is driving a good, consistent line here. Going to cut down a little bit there, but he is doing exactly what he should be doing. Beard now trying to find a way by. He's going to get a little bit of a draft. You see him there trying to hunt for just a little bit of clean air for that front wing as they go their way through the corners. Grills is taking that high line through 1 and 2. Good line for him there. He's going to take a little bit of a cutting line through 3 and 4. Also good line for him. He knows where the car is quick. He knows how to drive the car, and he's just doing exactly that.
If anything, it looks like Beard wanted to pick him up, if anything, to save a little bit. Mind you, Beard is a 9-lap difference compared to the drivers around him on strategy.
Yeah, Beard was one of the guys who came in early. Came in with Justin Kirby, and they are now working their 40th lap after pit stop. So if their strategy holds, they may be looking to dive into the pits here any minute. But if I'm Justin Kirby, I'm going to maybe try to extend this by about 5 laps. I would say look for Kirby at about 85. Beard, I don't know what he wants to do, to be honest.
You can tell he's trying a bit of the bottom line, trying to still build up momentum. But again, just electing to save a touch. They are starting to lose ground a touch now, though, on Rayvon and Burke. About 2/10 they've lost since they picked up this lap car.
Yeah, it's holding them up a little bit, but as we saw, the pit stop cycle can change everything. You know, just overshooting the box a little bit, forcing your crew to come up a little bit more, that can be the change that changes everything.
Might see pit stops coming up here, as we did have Simon Grills ducked down, so that is one of the lap cars. He was on a similar strategy to all these drivers, however, did miss the start and was a half a second behind the pack at the green flag. This has now allowed Paul Jenkins, though, to try and think about scrapping here with Brian Beard to the bottom side.
Jenkins getting a little punchy with his championship rival, wants to get his nose in front. Beard's going to take a higher line. That's going to get him a lot more momentum, but Jenkins is going to try to drift up the track there, shut down that momentum from Beard. Plays it nice and safe, doesn't shut the door too hard, doesn't want to play too dirty, but he is able to get in front of Beard as they cross the line and go into 1.
And now Brian Beard's got a problem. He looks like he almost wants to back off here, but DJ, with him having a pin in 5, everyone else is now trying to pounce on this. David Hall, his best run of the season, looking to take away a top 5 right now. Chris Stouffer looking to get back towards the top 5. And don't forget about Jeff Wupker, who's still floating around back there.
Justin, we talk about it a lot of times when we talk about Formula One racing and the cliff with these tires. It looks like that's what Brian Beard may be running into here. Those tires really just starting to wear off. And looking ahead, I think that may be true because the gap from Justin Kirby back to Rick Rayvon is down to 3.8 seconds.
It's still 3.8 seconds, though, that they'd have to try and close up, though, in one stint. We are in the green light on fuel this time by 48 to go when they get to the stripe as David Hall, the best run I've seen from in a long time, able to jump up to P5 on that move.
Good move from him, and now next in line to try to take that is Chris Stouffer in that number 7. He's going to put the car down on the inside, slide it up around Brian Beard, and get that pass to work beautifully. Jeff Wupker now saying, yes, please, I'd like some of that as well, and he's going to try to get by.
Cushion, though, has grown for the second grouping, for the air group in the cars, I should rather say. It went from 1.2 seconds difference to nearly 2 seconds outright. With all that little bit of scrapping and strategy shuffling. These drivers also starting to lose a bit of time to Rayvon and Burke here and there. Justin Kirby coming in this time by. That will cycle Rayvon to the race lead. Beard will also have to come in.
So this is where that final pit stop is going to come into play. Whew, Kirby playing it fast and loose with that line there on the apron. He's going to get that car down to the pit speed limiter. Nice and easy. He's down on the line, nice and clean as he comes onto pit lane.
No one else joining them outside of those two drivers. Paul Jenkins actually just joined them, pardon. Paul Jenkins decided to go in with Brian Beard, and that may be a championship play there for him to pit on that lap.
I think he doesn't want to give any sort of advantage to Brian Beard. Doesn't want to get caught out by a yellow. He knows what he has to do. You see him coming to a stop. Oh my goodness, I think that's Beard overshot his pit stall very slightly.
It's going to lose him a touch bit of time. He still is up on the jacks. Off and away goes Paul Jenkins, so move Jenkins for sure into that spot by at least a second or so. That could be helpful, though. We'll have to see. Rayvon, Burke, Hall, Stouffer, Wupker, Yurt, Kita, Greenlee among the drivers yet to pit.
That, I don't know how far back that's going to shuffle.
David Hall's in the grass. Was fighting with Stouffer. He's able to save it. No caution. He's got wing damage, however. That was a loose moment coming through the quad oval where he clipped the apron and the grass on his left side tires.
As we see it here, that's Stouffer behind Hall in that red 75 in front. You see him come down hard onto that white line. Almost got lost it there a little bit. Drifts up into the wall, tries to cut down off of Stouffer and just, clips that grass. Amazing bit of car control there from David Hall to be able to keep the car going and stay green.
He's now in the pits too from that. What a save. Like we'll take the fast repair here with Nate Burke coming in. There it is right there for the iRacers Lounge podcast and Devossi Racing's driver. Other end of the pit lane, also see a couple drivers potentially roll in. We'll keep an eye on that as we take a look at Stouffer and Wupker, who continue to trug along. They're 3 seconds behind Rick Rayvon, however.
And neither one of them making it look like they're going to go down pit lane, but that is Wupker trying to take a look on the green car of Chris Stouffer, looking for something, maybe thinking about it, not going to have it, just trying to get a little bit of clean air for that wing coming into turn one, trying to find a little bit of more downforce for that car. You see him taking a lower line there. He's going to try to find something, a little bit of a better run off it too, but not enough to make it work.
Of note, David Hall spun out of the pit lane, was able to save it though in the grass. Christopher Matricion and Andy Yurt have come in for their scheduled pit stops. Wupker now coming in for his scheduled stop. Rick Rayvon and Chris Stouffer, however, stretching it one additional lap. Under 40 to go, Rayvon will come in this time.
What this is going to set up here, Justin, is to see if Rayvon can really put the power down earlier and get a gap to go. He's going to have younger tires. He's not going to be out on them as long as some of his rivals, so it could be a good strategy play here from Rayvon.
Keep an eye on the stopwatch, to say the very least. Chris Stouffer joins them as well. Kita will also join them in the pit lane as well, this time by. Kirby, for reference sake, is getting fairly quick around the racetrack. He is down the backstretch at the moment.
So he is the first car a lap down, so he will more than likely be able to overtake any of these guys coming out. You see him here crossing the start-finish line. Rayvon's starting to work his way. That's Rayvon. That's Kirby for the lead. Kirby continues to just dominate.
And for Justin Kirby, this has been his best race yet. As he pulls the gap now on Rayvon by a few more seconds with that call once more. He's come so close so many times where every time he looks like he's got a race-winning car or is about to potentially scrap for the race win or has a shot for at least contention for the top three, he's crashed. He's had so many stretches of bad luck in DNFs where he's been a race-winning car. Tonight, this is the best we've seen him put together yet.
It has. We've talked about the Kirby curse, as it were, Justin, and it looks like he is out to prove us wrong tonight, putting in an absolute master class right now. 3.2 seconds, it looks like, above Rayvon at the moment, so we're going to have to see what that shakes down to.
Brian Greenlee has come down in pits, so that gives Kirby the race lead. It is 5 seconds again. Burke and Jenkins are also in the drafting pack with Rick Rayvon, however. Jenkins' undercut may help him a little bit because Beard is another 3 seconds behind after his mistake in the pits.
That's right, as you see here, that's Jenkins, which we ride on board with him, staying in fifth gear, going to hit a little bit of that top line rev, just trying to find something. Remember, this is early in a stint for these guys. They're going to be able to run a little bit lower. Jenkins tries to take a higher line off the corner, not happening, not really able to get the full draft up to Burke that he'd like. Right now, I think he is just trying to hold back as much as possible and see what can come to him with 34 laps to go.
Beard's losing a bit of ground of note to Justin Kirby on the short run at least, but Jenkins is the quickest car on the track, is the bright side. 24.789 last time by. Kirby 24.9. Rick Rayvon 24.9 as well, separate by 1/100th of a second. Beard has mentioned P7 as well for your championship fight and your spotlight drivers for tonight. The main thing is for Jenkins now at this rate, he needs bad luck to strike the 5, to be quite frank. You don't want to see that if you're fighting for a championship, but when it comes to this, Beard's doing his job. Where he's at right now, he wins the title. However, anything happens attrition-wise, incident-wise, that damages his race car, could cost him the title now because he used that fast repair on the first stop.
It very well could, and if I'm Brian Beard, I am just holding on as close as I can as you see him here working his way to the inside line around. That is Chris Stouffer. Stouffer's going to have a little more momentum coming down the back stretch. They're going to continue to go side by side and just see what happens here, but I think both of these guys are veterans. They know what is at stake here, and Stouffer's not going to be wanting to run Beard that hard.
Still Stouffer, plenty a bit on the top. They also have a lap car with them. I believe that's Mike Ellis, who is floating on behind this grouping of race cars on the racetrack. Just go ahead.
I was just going to say that this is good for Mike Ellis, you know, being one of these guys that's coming up a rookie here. Good to learn from two of the most experienced veterans. Watch their lines, watch what they're doing. It's a good learning experience from Ellis, exactly what the Hutch Sports guys wanted him to pick up here today.
That's one of the Fozzie drivers. Mike Ellis is a part of the iRacers Lounge partnership. But for those drivers for Hutch Sport, by the way, Cody Bullock is out of the race. He's in 19th. Sean Garrett is in 16th. Simon Grills is in 15th. It's not been a pretty night for any of those drivers. They are currently all a lap down plus. As we take a look at the lead pack, or the main group rather, it is closing in quick now by about a tenth a lap. Burke now leads it.
Burke leads it with Ray Vaughn right up his gearbox, trying to make something happen, and that's Paul Jenkins there lurking in the background, trying to find something happening. Ray Vaughn right now doesn't look like he's got the line over Burke. Burke just cutting off that corner exactly where he needs to, but Ray Vaughn's got a good inside line there. He's got a good draft, not going to make it happen, but he knows he's got the speed if he wants it, I think. He's going to try to push down a little bit lower on the track, get a little bit of clean air for the left side of that wing, see what he can make happen here. I think if he can get a good run here through 1 and 2, we may see Ray Vaughn try to make a move down the backstretch.
It's a possibility. And here's the thing, too. There's only a little bit of a difference in tires here, but they are much quicker than they were before. And one of the thought process maybe is, DJ, with them being able to stretch it more longer, they could take less fuel in theory. If they did that, DJ, that may be why they're so quicker now in this final stint.
It certainly could. They're able to really dial in those fuel numbers, know exactly how much they can save behind the car behind. And I think that may be a little bit of what Rick Ray Vaughn is doing, as he is not one to sort of idly stay back behind and not attack the car in front. And he is very content here to stick right behind Nate Burke's gearbox. And I think probably just save a little bit of fuel.
Exactly here. Nate Burke didn't have that luxury, neither did Paul Jenkins, mind you. In theory. Paul Jenkins, 8.4 seconds to the box. Burke, 9.4 seconds. Ray Vaughn, 9 seconds for reference sake. Drivers who filled it up to the top, 10.2. In the case of Brian Beard, he was among those drivers who had to do that with the timing of their pit stop laps. So it's looking like the undercut, great call if you want to gain a buffer. Not as great call if you feel like you could lose pace at the end of the race, since everybody else is going to be a little bit lighter with about a gallon or so less possibly.
I think that's about right, Justin. But for Justin Kirby, that working out absolutely perfectly as he continues to just keep about that 4.2 second advantage in front of these cars you see on your screen. Nate Burke and Rick Ray Vaughn and Paul Jenkins.
And I think Ray Vaughn's still trying to save, like you said. They're starting to equalize a bit with Justin Kirby now, time-wise. How long do you stay stuck up behind Burke if you're Rick Ray Vaughn here, knowing there's the possibility of him doing the light fuel?
I would start to probably push here in the next 5 to 10 laps. You know, being right behind him like this, it kind of forces him to take a little bit more of a defensive line. He may have to run a little bit lower on the track than he would normally like to just kind of cover off that low line. As we talked about earlier in the race, that'll wear off his right rear tire a little bit. And I think with what you're seeing out of Rayvon, it's very heads up. He's not really conserving fuel, but I think he's not taking his aggressive line through the corner. And so he's able to save a little bit of tire life, and that may come to him later on.
Starting to reel back in the time. It's now under 4 seconds on the track, down to 3.9 in the middle of the corner. Eventually, though, Justin Kirby's also going to reach traffic again. And as we've seen, once he passed the traffic the last run, that's where his tire fall-off started to really kick in. He might potentially reach at least around that mark again. Owen McLaughlin and Robert Bluen, who are currently running near somewhere, if not a bit slower time. So there is a chance of another buffer on top of things. And don't forget as well, drivers like Sean Guerin and a couple others who are off cycle who will have to deal with them.
It's a very good point. The last thing you want to have happen when you are running on very bald tires is being close to a car in front of you. And so depending on when Kirby gets them, as you said, that could be disastrous for him. Now, that all said, we've got about 17 or so laps here to go, if my math is right.
19.
19, thank you. My calculator was put away for the championship. But for Kirby, he's got a 3.7 second advantage. I think, even with lap traffic, that'll hold.
Let's see, as it's now another 10th and a half nearly gained by this grouping on screen. Now another 10th, that past time by, rather, it was the previous time referred to. Rich Stouffer, by the way, P5. Jeff Gwopker is in P6. That is 3 seconds behind this grouping of cars. Beard is now on his own. And it's now looking like Rick Rayvon is signaling he wants to try and make a move here on Nate Burke to try and switch it.
I think he's ready to go here into hardline. He is taking a little bit of a wider line, trying to get more momentum down the backstretch, take advantage of that headwind. He's dropped back a little bit, which will give him more room to go. He's going to take a super low line. Burke's going to get defensive there. They're going to get close, but Rayvon's going to be right tucked out behind his gearbox. Going to try to maybe make a dive coming into one. He's going in.
There it is right there. Burke trying to give a bit of space. He's not letting up, though. It seems as though Burke is not on the same page as everyone else when it comes to this.
No, he's not. A little bit surprising there, as I think they want to play a little bit of leapfrog. But Rick Rayvon here now had good momentum coming off there. He's got the inside line. Better run than he had last time. He is fully alongside. Going into turn one, they get a little close. Rayvon able to get the car down on the low side. They're super close there. But now he is ahead of Burke. Burke going to try to stick back out to the outside, get more momentum through 3 and 4. But Rayvon will lead them as they go into 3.
Message sent, message received. Rayvon is up to second. That situation just lost them 2 tenths again. And, oh, by the way, Garrett is actually falling back to these cars despite being on much fresher tires. So this could end up costing them. They've lost another half a tenth this time.
Could end up costing them big time. As you see here, Nate Burke not really looking like he wants to go quietly, continuing to work his way this way and that around the track, trying to find something to get back by Rick Rayvon.
Here's the lap comparison, and the laps where the passing attempts happen or where you see the positives. Finally, Burke has settled on in, but the damage may be done. The gap may be too big to reel in on Justin Kirby at this rate, unless they get some luck here.
They've got to get a whole lot of luck, gap up to about 3.8 seconds, and Burke continually trying to force Rayvon into something that's not really allowing Rayvon to take the perfect line he wants to through the corner. He's just now going to have to try to drive what he can and look in his mirrors.
Of note, Owen McLaughlin had to pit. He is off cycle now and likely out of the race in the 90 after a 29-lap stint towards the end of this race. Only 2 DNFs, Bullock and McLaughlin. Everybody else is still going, meaning if any incident was to happen involving the 5, his cushion is still not there for him to completely secure if anything was to happen. By the way, Wubker and Stouffer have swapped spots. Wubker in the top 5. Also of note, Jenkins is passed by Burke as The 28's tires are falling off in that other grouping, as we talked about.
Very much so. Those just, his tires just really falling off, being forced to take that defensive line. You can see just how quickly Jenkins able to get around him there, but Burke not trying to give up the fight quite yet. Going to tuck back in the gearbox through 3 and 4, but Jenkins just has better grip coming through that corner. Burke's going to try to fight back with a little bit of momentum, but I don't think he's going to have it. I think Jenkins is going to leave him in the dust here and try to get back up to Rick Ray Vaughn.
Keep in mind, Ray Vaughn is on his own here, is now back equalized. 10 laps to go. Coming up to 9 to go. Mandatory blue flags now in effect for all lap cars in the field from this point on. And Justin Kirby is in control of his destiny for the win, while Brian Beard is in control of his destiny for the championship. As long as those drivers don't have an incident and stick where they are, we may see Kirby with the checker flag at the rate he's going, and we may see Brian Beard as your 2020 champion as they hold.
Just a knock on all of the wood, but I have to agree with you. I think that's the way it is going to go as we ride on board here. You can see what these guys have to do. I believe that's David Hall as he works his way around the track. You can see him coming down, or no, is that Beard? Excuse me. That's Brian Beard we're riding on board with. You can see here just trying to keep this car going, not pushing too hard. You can see there the rev limiter backing off a little bit, not pushing too hard. He knows where he is. He's in 9th. That is within his championship window.
Jenkins and Burke has settled down. Jenkins finally up to P3, but both of them, because of that squabbling, have lost Rick Ray Vaughn. Ray Vaughn is still 3.3 seconds behind Kirby. Jenkins now 4.4 seconds behind your race lead. So Jenkins, you have to give credit. This was the best race I think we've seen from him all season. He just didn't get the luck of the strategy to have a shot at the win quite. At this moment, we are about 2 laps away from the point of no return, give or take.
That's right, Justin. He just didn't seem to catch it. You know, I have to think with the strategy he was running, when he saw Brian Beard have that early contact, he had to think he had an advantage. I could never have predicted that this race would have gone green to the end. So Jenkins just falling bad luck of that here tonight.
Still trying to defend now. Under 5 to go. Again, no green-white checkers per IndyCar rules and per series organization rules. If we get to 3 to go, this race is for sure done. 4 to go this time. Point of no return coming up.
Jenkins here, Burke not making it easy for him there, really fighting for that last step at the podium. Whew, Burke running super wide there. He's going to get some good momentum down the backstretch. He may try to duck in. No, he's going to stick right behind there. Not going to try to make a move. I think, Justin, you may have hit the nail on the head. Nate Burke may be running a little low on fuel and just trying to get absolutely every last bit he can out of that motor.
And they're past the point of no return as well. This is now the scrap for whatever positions you can get. The next flag ends the race. 2 laps to go, this time by Burke, looking for one of his best runs all season. Jenkins looking to hold on to one of his best runs all season. All while Justin Kirby is coming around to the 2 to go, while Brian Beard is trying to hold on for 2 more laps for a title.
He's just got to keep going. There is your leader, Justin Kirby, who has put in a positively flawless race here tonight. He goes into turn 3 and 4, ready to get the white flag. 1 lap to go for Justin Kirby.
He'll get that this time by. Paul Jenkins still defending for P3, while Burke tries to get the momentum off of turn 4. The tire's not helping over the final 1.5 miles of the season for these drivers here at Charlotte.
Kirby working his way onto the backstretch. That early pit strategy paying off in spades for Kirby. He comes through turns 3 and 4 for the last time, ready to check the checkered.
For the first time in his career in the Acura Throwback Indycar Series, it is Justin Kirby who finds victory lane in the Molly Joe Photography Championship 200, but in the end, it's Brian Beard who takes home the trophy. Brian Beard is your 2020 Series champion.
Great run there from Beard. Great damage control run, suffering that early damage. He really just showed here tonight why he is one of the best drivers in this series and why he deserves the championship.
10 career victories in this series, back-to-back titles now in this series' history, with 6 coming last year. But for Justin Kirby, he finally put together the full race. It was the conversation point of the season, the Kirby curse. The curse is broken. He gets to burn it down while Brian Beard gets to celebrate a title.
An absolutely amazing run there for the both of them. And I also want to give a massive kudos to this entire field. I don't think I have ever seen an oval race on an intermediate oval run green all the way through, but they did it here tonight and put on a great show for all of us.
And Justin Kirby going straight to the Polish victory lap, right to the very end on fuel, right to the very end to get his first win this season after coming so close so many times. But in the end, it is Brian Beard who wins a back-to-back championship after holding on to a P7. With the full rundown and more as we break down your final race of the season and post-race coverage in just a few moments. You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel for the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Welcome back to the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina, for the Rogue Energy post-race show. Rogue Energy Drink is designed to replace unhealthy canned energy drinks, coffee, and even traditional pre-workouts. Rogue Energy is sugar-free and loaded with vitamins, antioxidants, and nootropics. Scoop, shake, drink, wait. Use promo code UCORA Indy to get 10% off your purchases at rogueenergy.com. The Kirby curse has been broken. Justin Kirby wins in the final race of the season after coming so close several times and crashing in several positions for victory in the past. He holds on by 2.4 seconds over Rick Ray Vaughn. Paul Jenkins comes home in P3 with Nate Burke in P4, Chris Stouffer in 5th, Jeff Wubker in 6th, and Brian Beard clinches the championship with a 7th place finish in this race, 10 seconds back of the lead. Kita finished in 8th with Greenlee and York, your top 10 tonight, DJ.
Bringing the car home in 11th was Christopher Mastricione, followed by David K. Hall in 12th, falling down from that earlier high running. Robert Bluen in 13th, followed by Mike Ellis, the first of your cars to be a lap down. He was 2 laps down. Simon Grills behind him, followed by Sean Garrett, Tyler Gore, Owen McLaughlin, a non-finisher, as was Cody Bullock.
Let's look at your 19 cars who started tonight's finale, but in the end, there could be only one winner and only one champion in this race. Bullock, McLaughlin among your DNFs. Gore also did not finish with 5 laps down in this race. Entertaining one to say the very least. Let's talk with your race winner first. Justin Kirby is standing by, and Justin, first things first, congrats on the victory. The curse has finally been broken.
Man, this one feels really good, man. I being the mile and a half, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was just trying to be nice and smooth and get through the start and the first run, and I was pleasantly surprised I was able to get on the pole, and that kind of took care of things right there. Just had to keep my nose clean because I knew pit stops were going to be my strong point. But I made sure to practice them a bunch, and ended up paying off nicely.
Overall, when you break things down, you've come close several times. You've been in position to win several times, then had incidents that threw it all away. Overall, how does it feel where you finally get a full race together without an incident, or without spinning from the lead, or without having trouble, or without a bad strategy call coming into play to finally get yourself into victory lane after being in position to win several times over this year?
Oh, it feels good to do it right again. I mean, I took a long break from iRacing for a couple years, and I got back going again about the summer of last season, and this is the first time I've been running pretty consistently on a steady stretch, and it's just something you can be there, but then when you go away and come back, it's hard to get back to that point. So getting back to that point just feels pretty dang awesome, man.
When thinking back to everything, as you said, your first full main stretch, really, and how would you describe this campaign overall in this series from the driver's side?
It was a blast. I mean, the core group of guys that Yakora has here and that Scott has here, they are about as straight up racers as you're gonna find anywhere. And let's just say I've seen a few leagues, and just these guys are just so much fun to race with. Brian, Paul, Rick there at the last couple of races that we had. It's so much fun to race here. I mean, just go out, put some laps down. I mean, not really too concerned about running wheel to wheel with anybody. I mean, and somebody makes a mistake, no, we're not at each other's throats. It's a fun league to be in. It's fun. It's just nice to go out there and I don't know, I'm kind of just stuttering over myself now, but it's just a lot of fun.
Anyone you want to thank for your run tonight and throughout the season?
Just again want to thank the guys at Black Magic Motorsports, my brother Brent, Black Hole, Joel Putty, those guys there. Trevor Hunt let me put Black Dog on the car. Dan Guerin for having D2 on the car. The league sponsors, 94 Motorsports, Rogue Energy, D2 again, iRacers Lounge, all those guys that make it possible. I mean, this is something that's very worthwhile, and I hope for a long future with these guys.
Congratulations on the victory tonight, Justin.
All right, thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Justin Kirby, your race winner for tonight's action for the Molly Joe Photography Championship 200. But standing by with the second place championship finisher tonight, DJ Clark.
Well, Paul, obviously you came so close last race. I think kind of scuppered your hopes. You had said that sort of ended your championship. You had a great run tonight. You were on the podium, but talk us through the emotions of the race and what you're going through right now.
Well, truth be told, I had as good of a race as I could have had. Justin just had the field covered. That was an amazing run by him. I mean, just a clinic from start to finish. And I don't think we had anything for him, much as we tried. But, I mean, I did what I could do. And, yeah, you're right. Last race, I think, really kind of hurt. But, hey, you know what? I mean, I ran a nice race. I did what I could do, and of course, you can't stop a Brian Beard. You can only hope to contain him. And congratulations to him. Solid run. I kind of got into him a little bit with a little bit of wheel spin right on the start, which really just surprised me. We haven't seen that. And this car does that to you, and I should have known. And luckily, it didn't impact the championship. But yeah, I got to thank the guys for such a great run. I mean, it's just clean running all day long, real close. I mean, we had no cautions, so awesome race.
Well, Paul, you took my second question right out of my mouth. I was going to ask you what happened there at the start. So I guess I will just turn our shaders then to look into the future. Can we expect you back next year? And do you think you can make the run and get up one more step on the championship podium?
Well, I mean, I will give it my best shot. This has been kind of believe it or not, it's been a learning season for me. I've my rookie season here with Eucora, and how Scott builds these sets, and just trying to get a hold of it. And definitely the second half has been better than the first half for me. And yeah, I absolutely, if I'm invited back, I will be happy to run with these guys. And it's a real great organization, and I'm happy and proud to be a part of it.
Well, we certainly hope you do get that invite back, because it's always been a pleasure watching you race in and week in and week out. But Paul, before we let you go, anybody you need to thank tonight?
Well, as always, my lovely wife for letting me do this thing, and of course, 94 Motorsports, and for putting on the main sponsorship on this show, and doing all the work to get the publicity and everything. And it's a heck of a first prize. I really, I'm kind of bummed that I missed it by just a little bit, but I'm positive that Brian is going to have an excellent experience. It's a great organization to work with, and I think they're going places. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what Brian's experience is with these guys.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. Congratulations on the podium, and congratulations on the second place overall in the championship.
Yeah, you bet. I'm a happy man. I give him my best effort, and we'll get him next year, guys.
That's what you love to hear. And now Justin is standing by with our 2020 champion, Brian Beard.
Yes, indeed. Back to back, Brian. How does it feel to be a back-to-back champion?
Incredibly happy right now. I don't even have the words.
First of all, talk us through your night, because damage from the get-go with the wheel spin off the jump, but recovered to a solid run.
Yeah, it was a bit of a rough night. I had some kind of weird glitch in the pits. So after I had that damage, when I came in, I thought, well, I'll pit early, and we'll see if that helps with the undercut. And when I came in the pit, fixed my wing, didn't use a fast repair, but the car was never the same. It was good for about 20 laps, and if I was in a draft, but I think I was off by close to a half a second after about lap 20. So I don't know. There was just some damage on the car that just never got repaired. So the only thing I could really do was just try to hang in there and drive as hard as I could.
Overall, a hard-fought championship, because you had to fight through some adversity. You had some ups and downs early on in the campaign, had some various personal stuff pop up, but also had to claw back a 200-point deficit in the month of August to claw your way back into the most consistent driver in terms of top 5s and 10s this year, Paul Jenkins. Describe that intensity to close your way back into the championship fight, and in turn, come away with the title and take control of it by the time we got to the second last race finale, to the finale.
Man, this one was special. Last year was special for the inaugural season, but this one was even more special. With the competitors out on the track, we had really hard fought season. Me and Jenkins had, a hell of a battle, and kudos to him, because I don't want to take anything away from him, because he had a hell of a season as well. And, we raced each other clean. What happened tonight was just, it was an accident. It happens to all of us. So, yeah, man, I'm super thrilled and relieved.
Now, of course, couple things. One, you also win the top qualifier championship, so you win a button box. But Paul Jenkins kind of alluded to this, some experiences coming up for you in terms of winning this championship overall. How does it feel overall to be able to have all that come your way after such a hard-fought campaign overall?
Man, that was the goal. That's why we fought so hard, was to get that championship. Not just for the trophy and the bragging rights, but that's a special prize given out by the sponsor. And coming from my sponsor over here in my other league, it's even better. And I'm proud to represent them and represent the league. And it's awesome.
Anyone you want to thank overall for being on the car for this championship? And oh, by the way, where you became the winningest driver so far with 10 victories in the series' history in 2 seasons.
I didn't even know that. You guys keep awesome stats. There's a whole bunch of people I want to thank. Thank you guys, because you guys really, really have boosted this league, and you guys have an awesome broadcast, and your commentary is amazing. D2 Race Designs, 9-4 Motorsports, they've been awesome to me. Rogue Energy, Midwest Simulations, Scott Bolster for running an amazing league, all the competitors out there, Paul for hell of a season, and most importantly, my wife, because she puts up with this thing that us adults try to come in here and do. So she's very patient, and she supports me, and she watches the races. So, I have to thank her.
Congratulations on the championship, Brian, and congratulations on getting that D2 Race Designs button box as well.
Thanks, guys.
Brian Beard, your 2020 Yakura Throwback Indycar Series champion. A heck of a campaign, to say the very least. Believe we may have Scott Bollister standing by as well. The main organizer for Yakura. Scott, a great campaign for your entire series. How are you feeling from the organizer side of things on this year's championship fight?
Hey guys, thanks for having me up. When you start to put a season together and you put a league together and everything like that, you hope that one year builds on the next, and you hope that you can somehow cultivate and generate the kind of drama that you see like in the real world and things like that, and bring that over into the sim world. And the season that we had this year, and obviously you guys had the front row seat for everything, and it was probably one of the most rewarding endeavors that I've done, just in building something. And I just really can't say enough to every single driver that come out and was a part of building what we accomplished this year, because I think it was absolutely astonishing, amazing racing all year.
Absolutely. And what are some of the other positives to mention on that? Because there was a lot of growth. We've seen various teams come into play. We've seen growth of partnerships. What was some of the positives in terms of the growth on top of things as the campaign went on this year?
First and foremost is the expansion of the primary sponsors. So the Peels over at 9-4 Motorsports, in the first season, it's a blessing to find somebody right out of the gate. Whenever we were just doing practice races and the hosted sessions on iRacing, to have somebody go, hey, you know what, this has a lot of merit, this has a lot of potential, and everything like that, and when we're going to put a bunch of effort behind it. And to have that buoyancy, to be able to lift you up and be able to have something to offer drivers and things like that, to try and promote your league and things like prizes and sponsorships and broadcasts and things like that. So whenever they were into sign on again for this season, and whenever they decided that they wanted to present this track day to the champion, you want to, it's kind of cliche, but you want to say like, hey, they doubled down on the investment in this league. It isn't even double. Like what they did is such a massive, immeasurable leap to provide somebody who does sim racing to not just like a ride along or something like that, which would be a wonderful prize in itself, but to say, okay, we're going to bring you on as one of our drivers. Like, you're a team driver for the day, and we're going to take you out to the track. And then we bring on awesome sponsors like D2 Race Designs. You know, Midwest Simulations, they come in and they're like, hey, we want to highlight all these great drivers that have made this possible. And then you get, you know, towards the end of the season, iRacers Lounge, which gives us such great exposure for the league and things like that. So when you ask me, you know, like, hey, what's some of the great things? It's like, well, when you see a lot of sponsors that want to come in and invest in what you got going on, that is the feeling that is of accomplishment is just great.
That explains the next question I was going to ask in terms of the championship prize alluded to by Paul Jenkins a little bit there, but what should fans expect to see for the future of Eucora now that the 2020 season is now in the books?
One of the great things is whenever you have such a really, good's an understatement, a really amazing core group of drivers to build off of for next season. So like, we had a lot of great racing for this season. You know, like I said, you guys saw that. So what we get to do next year, not only building off of that, but we've had great drivers who are here for part of the season. They would come in, have a couple races here and there, then they would leave. And then they come back later on. But what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to bring those drivers back full time. We've already had multiple drivers say that we're going to come back full time. So the championship battle that you saw this year with 2 drivers is probably going to be around 6 or 7 drivers next year. So I can only imagine what the kind of excitement is going to be then.
That's going to be very interesting to see how things fare out, especially with some of the speed seen from several drivers and the improvement seen by many even tonight we've seen with some best runs in the year. But overall, you have the floor. Anything else you'd like to add before we let you ride off into the dark set?
Like I said, first of all of the investment that all of our sponsors have come on and said, hey, we would like to do more. Like, it's one thing to go out and get sponsors to say, hey, come, you know, sign on with our league and, you know, we'll promote you and things like that. But to have the sponsors come in and say, we want to do more. We would like to do this. We would like to do that. We have a winter series coming up. That's a paid series, just something in between in the off season with Midwest Simulations. Their Spotlight Snowball series that's coming up, and that's money they're putting on for that. And then, you know, you really have to sit back, and I don't think people understand the value of good broadcasting, of what you guys bring to the table, because it's one thing to stream a race and to talk about, you know, oh, you know, so and so's in lead, so and so's this, so and so wrecked. You guys' capacity to breathe life into a series it's priceless. It really is priceless. You know, because I've started to watch a lot of the other series on your channels too, because on Fridays I'll rewatch the broadcast because I'm busy, you know, admin and stuff like that. And then really for the rest of a couple hours, I'm watching different series that you guys broadcast. It's just kind of on random repeat. But you guys' capacity to breathe such life and such excitement into a series is beyond question one of the greatest things that any organizer could ask for as far as a broadcasting partner. So we appreciate everything that you guys do.
Thank you very much for the time, Scott. Thank you very much, and congrats on a strong and powerful season.
Awesome, guys. See you. Hopefully we'll see you next season. We'll work something out.
That's Scott Poster, main series organizer for Eucora and the Throwback Indycar Series. Now, DJ, very emotionally charged finale tonight in post-race coverage with many different feelings coming out. But the main thing in those feelings is positivity, as well as excitement about not just the championship this year, but for the future.
Exactly. And, you know, it's a little cliche to say, Justin, but you love to see it. this is why we love the motorsports community. Whether it's sim racing or real life, it is that sort of, bond of friendship and respect that drivers have for other drivers. It is incredible to be able to call a series like this where there is such mutual respect and admiration for everybody who's strapping into the sims every night. It makes our jobs a lot easier to call something that is exciting and as fun to do as this. And so kudos to Scott, kudos to you, Cora, across the board. And just as a fan, I cannot wait for 2021 for the Throwback IndyCar Series.
I can't wait either. It's been an exciting campaign to follow along with. There's been lots of twists and turns, and of course, some dominating performances. But in the end, the winningest driver in series history, the only driver in double-digit victories, mind you, in the history of the Cora Throwback IndyCar Series, is able to go back-to-back. What a campaign, and we'd like to thank you for tuning in, not just tonight, but throughout the entire season for this campaign. We'd also like to thank the Ultimate Conquest Online Racing Association for organizing this thrilling series, as well as the many sponsors, as mentioned, who really help drive this series and its success and its growth, including Midwest Simulations, D2 Race Designs, Rogue Energy, of course, as well, on top of things, 94 Motorsports. And don't forget about tonight's title sponsor and Molly Joe Photography jumping on board. I'd like to thank the Bollister family for their support of the growth of Yakora. We'd also like to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed up on screen. With additional thanks to Jude Lalonde provides her wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. We'd also like to thank the team tonight and DJ and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about Gsrc, including its upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.storeofyourlife.com. Or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. As mentioned, the next season for this series is not until 2021. A lot can happen till then, but to fill in the gap for now, we have upcoming races for other series listed up on screen, so be sure to check those out as well to mark them down in your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track. Congratulations to Brian Beard, your 2020 Throwback IndyCar Series champion.